The chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with cold light, the walls glowing with the energy of thousands of stars. Yet no one inside felt warmth. The leaders of dozens of alien species sat in silence, their faces pale, their eyes nervous. It was unusual, for this was the place where laws were made, where peace was kept. But today, peace was slipping through their claws and tentacles like sand. High Chancellor Drex stood at the center, his voice sharp as he raised it. Reports have arrived from the outer rim. 3 fleets destroyed, no survivors, no signals. His words echoed, bouncing off the domed ceiling. The room stirred as whispers grew. It must be pirates, one alien hissed, his skin shimmering in fear. No fleet could vanish so quickly. No fleet, but... He stopped, his throat tightening, his eyes darting to others. Another slammed a clawed hand on the table. Do not speak the name. We swore to never give it voice again. But the silence that followed was heavier than any word. Finally, a voice broke it, trembling. It was humans. Every head turned. The word itself seemed to poison the air. Even the translators hesitated before repeating it. The council chamber was filled with the sharp sound of creatures gasping. That cannot be, Chancellor Drex shouted, though even he sounded unsure. Humanity was broken, their worlds scattered. We saw them kneel. Centuries ago they were crushed. Yet an old council member, his scales faded with age, shook his head slowly. You saw what they wanted you to see, but I remember. I was there when they burned the skies of Dreadnought. I saw how they fought even when death was certain. I saw their fury. His voice cracked. We buried the truth because we were afraid that one day they would rise again. The chamber erupted into chaos, voices overlapping, panic filling the air, claws slammed, wings fluttered, eyes burned with fear. It was not the usual debate, it was desperation. They cannot be allowed to return, shouted one. If they are rising again, we must strike them before they strike us. But another countered, shaking his long antennae. You think you can fight fury with fleets? You think you can cage a storm? We will only wake it stronger. At the center, Drex's voice cut through. We need proof. We need more than whispers and old memories. What evidence do we have? The council guards brought forward a trembling scout officer, his armor torn, his breathing shallow, one arm bound in a glowing sling. He was the only survivor from the last destroyed fleet. The chamber leaned in as his voice broke. They came from the shadows, a single ship, black as the void. No warning, no demand, only fire. Our weapons were useless. Our shields fell like glass. It did not fight like any fleet. It fought like a predator. He paused, his wide eyes filled with terror. Before the ship vanished, it sent a message. What message? Drex demanded. The scout swallowed hard, his voice shaking. It said, do not test our fury. The words rolled across the chamber, heavy and final. No one spoke, no one dared, until a council member whispered, it is them. Only humans speak with such wrath. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The chamber shivered as if touched by something unseen. The councillors froze. Every system was supposed to be secure, yet a hologram appeared above the chamber, black mist forming into a human figure, tall, faceless, but burning with presence. You wanted peace, the voice spoke, cold and steady. But you sowed war. You thought humanity forgotten, broken. But you were wrong. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We endure. Panic erupted. Some council members screamed, others cowered, a few tried to flee, but the doors were sealed. The hologram's voice thundered louder. This is your warning. Stay your claws, or face our fury. And then, as suddenly as it came, the hologram dissolved into nothing, leaving silence heavier than before. Drex's claws trembled, his voice weak as he tried to command order. We must find a way, we must, but his words failed him. One alien slammed his fists down. It is already too late. We woke the storm. The humans are coming. And in that moment, the truth spread through every mind in the chamber. The Galactic Council, the rulers of thousands of worlds, were no longer in control. Fear had taken their place, because somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity had risen again, and their fury would not be stopped. The chamber was still heavy with silence, the shadow of the human warning hanging in the air like a storm cloud that would not break. No one dared to breathe too loud, no one dared to move without purpose. The words, "Do not test our fury," had struck deep into every mind present. It was the old counselor, Sarek of the Scaled Ones, who finally spoke, his voice thin but cutting through the silence. "You sit here trembling because you do not remember, but I do. I remember the last war with humanity. I remember the fire that could not be quenched, the screams that could not be silenced." His eyes turned glassy, haunted by memory. "You think this is the first time we have seen their fury? You are wrong. This is only its return." Drex leaned forward, his claws tapping the edge of the great table, his voice tight. "Tell us then, Sarek, what did you see? What truth did we bury?" The Old One's scales shifted as he drew a slow breath. "It began with arrogance. We thought humans weak, soft flesh, short lives, small numbers. We called them children playing with fire while we ruled the stars. So we struck first. We thought to break them before they could rise. But what we woke was no child. It was a beast." The chamber leaned closer, every ear straining, every translator clicking. "They lost worlds." "Yes," Sarek continued, his voice growing harsher. "They lost cities. They bled more than any of us. But instead of falling, they grew harder. Every loss fed their rage. Every death sharpened their claws. We did not understand how a fragile species could fight so long, so mercilessly. But they did. And they would rather burn their own sky than let us claim it." One council member, young and ambitious, sneered, "You speak like they were gods. They are flesh and bone, no more, no less. We crushed them. We saw their surrender. You exaggerate." The Old One's eyes narrowed, his voice low. "Is that what they taught you? That they surrendered, you fool? They never surrendered. We buried the truth because it terrified us. Humanity did not kneel. We simply stopped fighting because we feared what came next." The words stung the chamber. A few shouted back, demanding proof, demanding facts. But deep inside they all knew. The silence of the past had been too clean, too neat. Drex raised a claw, silencing the uproar. "Enough. What are you saying?" "Old One," Sarek's voice shook as he leaned forward, "I am saying that we did not win the last war. We survived it because the humans allowed us to." The chamber broke into chaos again, voices clashing like blades. Some screamed for denial, others trembled in fear, but none could shake the chill that ran down their spines. Amid the chaos, the scout officer, still trembling from his wounds, whispered loud enough for the recorders to catch, "The ship that attacked us, it bore markings. Old markings, not of a fleet but of a legion lost to history." His hands shook. "I saw it with my own eyes, the sigil of the forgotten war, a flame wrapped in chains. The humans have kept it, they remember." "No," Drex snapped, his voice louder than the thunder of the chamber. "If this is true, then we are facing not just their ships, but their memory, their vengeance. We must know how much they still carry. We must know how far their fury has grown." One alien with long antennae hissed, "You want to investigate, but who will dare? Every spy we send never returns. Every fleet vanishes. It is suicide." Another voice, sharp and cold, rose from the shadows of the chamber. "Then perhaps we should not send fleets or spies. Perhaps we should send envoys. Offer peace before the storm breaks fully." "Peace," a councillor spat, his wings flaring in anger. "You think peace will save us? Peace with humanity is only their leash around our necks. They will never forget, never forgive. They will use peace to tighten their grip." "Better a leash than a grave," another countered, desperation burning in their eyes. The chamber turned to Drex, all eyes waiting. His claws drummed against the table, his mind racing. He wanted to deny the fear, to claim strength, but deep inside he too felt the shadow pressing closer. Perhaps the Old One is right, Drex said at last, his voice heavy. Perhaps we never won the last war. Perhaps they let us live, and now they have chosen to remind us of it. But if they remember, if they kept their fury alive for centuries, then we must decide now, do we face them with steel or with surrender? The words were like poison in the chamber, for neither choice felt like survival. Suddenly, the great chamber shook. The lights flickered, alarms rang. A young guard rushed in, his face pale. High Chancellor, the outer perimeter has fallen. An unknown fleet has entered the system. They bear no flag, no insignia but one, a flame wrapped in chains. The old Councillor's voice broke. It is them. The forgotten war has returned. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council knew the taste of true fear. The black ship arrived without a flare, without a sound. It simply faded into view above the council capital, like a shadow, remembering its shape. For a full breath, the sky did not know how to hold it. Then alarms began to ring, and the city woke with fear. "Identify that vessel," Drex ordered, his voice steady, but his claws tight on the arm of his chair. Technicians ran their eyes across glowing panels. No registry, no heat print, no warp trail. "It is like it was always here," one whispered. The old Councillor Sarek did not blink. "It is human and it is hunting," he said. Fighter wings lifted from the hangars, sleek and bright. They circled the stranger with brave shows of light. "Maintain distance," a commander barked. "Do not fire until ordered." But the fighters drifted in small corrections like insects that could not help but lean closer to the flame. The black ship sent no hail. It did not turn. It seemed to ignore them. Yet every sensor told the same story. The unknown ship was reading everything, the ships, the towers. The nervous hearts behind stone and glass. "Open a channel," Drex said, his throat dry. "I am High Chancellor Drex. Identify yourself and state your intent." Silence followed. Only the hum of great machines moving in the bones of the city. Then a reply came, not in words first, but in a soft chime. Like a bell rung in a frozen forest. A voice filled the chamber, calm and unhurried. "Stand down your weapons," the voice said. It was not angry, not loud, but it carried weight like mountains. "Today is not your last day if you listen," defiant, hissed a winged councillor. "We must strike now." Sarek shook his head. "You strike the ocean with a stick, and the stick breaks," he murmured, in orbit. A captain's nerve cracked and a single missile launched. It streaked like a white nail toward the black ship. The city held its breath. The missile vanished. Not exploded, not diverted. It simply ceased. A smooth hole cut out of space, as if someone had taken a quiet bite. A second later, a neat cylinder dropped from the black ship and floated inches from the captain's window. It was the same missile, gently defanged. Its warhead peeled like fruit. On its skin, a message formed in pale letters. "Do not test our fury." Panic crackled over every channel. Drex slammed a fist and forced his voice to iron. "All batteries hold. Fighters return to safe orbit. We will speak first." He nodded to the comms officer. "Ask their purpose." The officer swallowed and set the channel. "Unknown vessel, state your purpose." A pause. "Like someone choosing careful words. To return what was taken," the voice said. Confusion rippled through the chamber. "Taken," Drex repeated. "What do you claim?" The voice did not answer. Instead, the black ship moved for the first time. A slow glide above the city, an eclipse on an eclipse. Its shadow folded across the council hall. Every light dimmed, though the energy grid read full. Windows showed stars that were not in that sky. "What is it doing?" a guard whispered. Something fell from the ship, a capsule shaped like a tear. It landed on the grand steps with no sound. Soldiers surrounded it, but their rifles refused to arm. Not jammed, not broken. They simply would not obey. The capsule opened like a flower. Inside were boxes, old, scarred, sealed with the wax of 2 languages. One the Council's, one curving and sharp human script. A small drone projected a list into the air. Names and coordinates, dates from centuries ago. Sarek stepped forward with a dread only the old can carry. "These are our records from the last war," he said. The missing, the vanished, the ones both sides said were lost to the void. A lid slid aside. Inside lay tags, pictures on thin crystal, tiny toys. The air went still. A guard covered his mouth. "Children," he said. "They were children," the human voice returned softer. "You took our children and told us they were ashes. We took yours and you told yourselves they never existed. Both lies are poison. Today we return what we held. Today you return what you hid." Drek stared at the objects. The little proof that big lies leave behind. He felt the weight of all the years pressing down. "We did not know," he said out of reflex. Sarek closed his eyes. "We knew," he said. "Our fathers knew, and we looked away because the truth would cut us all." The channel crackled. "A transport descends now," the human voice said. "It carries those who lived. Do not aim your guns at them." A second shape slid free of the black hull. Round, white, a nurse's hand in the sky. It sank to the platform and opened. Soft light spilled out. Figures stood inside, thin, wrapped in silver cloth, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. Some had the pale skin of council worlds, some the dark earth tones of old human lands. A small one clutched a carved animal. She looked no older than 12. An officer dropped to one knee without thinking. "How?" he whispered. The human voice heard him and answered, "Because not all of us wanted war. Some of us wanted to stop the circle. So we kept them safe, fed them, taught them, and waited for a day when truth could live." The chamber broke into 100 arguments. "It is a trick," one shouted. "They plant actors, they shame us, and then they strike." Another, choking on guilt, said, "Even if it is a trick, we must learn what we buried." Yet another cried, "If they kept ours alive, what did we do with theirs?" Silence fell again, heavier than any alarm. All eyes went to Sarek. He nodded once, slow. "Beneath this city," he said, "in vaults we swore to keep sealed, there are rooms that have not seen light since the war. If there is mercy left in us, we will open them now." Drek stood straighter. Like a man stepping into rain he cannot avoid, he looked up at the black ship. "If we open our vaults, if we let the past breathe, will you leave our sky?" he asked. "We did not come to conquer your sky," the human voice said. "We came to free your future from your lies." Drex turned to the guards. "Unseal the lower vaults, full witness, full record. Call the press, call the citizens, no more shadows." The city groaned as old locks woke and ancient doors stirred. A smell of dust and old metal rose from the deep. The first vault opened, and a cold light spilled up the stairs like water from a broken stone. Inside were beds, small and large, some empty, some not. Rows of records, drawings, letters. Apologies never sent. The guards went quiet. Some fell to their knees. One elder in the crowd let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He pointed at a pendant in a case. "My son made that," he said. "I told them I had lost him to the void." His hands shook, and he smiled through tears. "He did not vanish. He was taken." The human voice came one last time. "We do not ask for your forgiveness. We demand your honesty," it said. "When you build your peace on truth, then your hands will stop shaking." In orbit, the fighters drifted in a wide circle, like birds finally understanding the wind. The black ship lifted a little, as if the world beneath had grown lighter by a feather's weight. "Will you return again?" Drex asked. The channel waited a heartbeat. "Only if you call, or if you lie," the voice said. No pride, no smile, only a fact placed gently on the table. Then the ship thinned at the edges and folded itself away. The sky brightened, the alarms died. The city exhaled a long breath it had held for centuries. On the grand steps, a little girl reached for the carved animal. A guard helped her hold it. He looked at the council hall, then at the open vaults, and he said the words the city needed. "Let everyone see by dusk." Screens across 1,000 worlds showed the truth coming out of the ground like roots breaking stone. Some citizens raged, some wept, some stood in stunned quiet. In the chamber, Drex faced Sarek. "If the past is this heavy, how do we lift it?" he asked. Sarek put a hand over his old heart. "With both hands," he said, "and never again with closed eyes." Outside, bells that had not rung since the last war began to sing, not for victory, not for defeat, But for the first honest day the Council had seen in an age, and for the first time since the warning, the city felt something that was not fear. It felt the start of change. The Council chamber was restless, fear running like electricity through every voice. The images of the vault still haunted them, the children, the records, the truth they could no longer bury. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had seen the Council exposed as liars. Worse, humanity had returned as judge. Drex stood at the center, his shoulders stiff, his voice trying to hold order. We cannot wait for them to strike again. We must decide now. War or peace, his words fell heavy. Some councillors cried out for surrender, others demanded a show of force. The chamber cracked with arguments. A feathered councillor hissed, her wings spread wide. If we kneel now, every species will see us as weak. They will rise against us. Humanity will not only conquer us, they will own the galaxy through fear. Another, with silver skin, struck back. Weakness is refusing to see the truth. They already own fear. Look at us, we sit here trembling. If we attack, we may be wiped out before the next dawn. Sarek, the old, scaled councillor, leaned forward, his eyes burning. Both of you are blind. Listen. Humans do not want our thrones. They want justice. They want us to bleed as they bled. If we give them nothing, they will take everything. If we give them something, perhaps they will stop. Drex lifted his claws, silencing them. Then we make a plan, a desperate plan if we must. But we cannot sit still. Our people demand action, and humanity is waiting for our mistake. The chamber grew quiet, waiting for the next words. Finally, Drex said, we will split our path. One hand will hold peace. The other will hold a blade. We prepare for both. The plan took shape in whispers and orders. Envoys were chosen. A small group trained to cross into human space with empty hands, carrying gifts, carrying apologies. They may be killed the moment they arrive, one officer warned. Drex nodded. Perhaps, but perhaps they will listen. At the same time, fleets were secretly moved. Dark routes across the stars, hidden bases awakened. Weapons older than the Council itself, pulled from frozen vaults in the shadows of the chamber. A voice spoke, low and cold. What if they already know? What if they are watching us now? It was a young officer, his eyes darting nervously. Every spy we sent has vanished. Every fleet we lost died without a trace. What if they see our every step? Drex turned sharply, his voice sharp. Then we move carefully, slowly, so they see only what we want them to see. But his words did not ease the fear. Days passed like hours. The envoys were sent, cloaked ships carrying peace tokens, ancient human relics stolen long ago, letters of apology written in trembling hands. But no word returned. Silence spread across the stars like ice. Then a message arrived, sudden, unbidden. It burned across every channel, not only to the Council, but to every world. A human voice, the same calm weight as before. We see your fleets moving. We see your vaults opening. We see your hands tremble between peace and war. Know this, if you choose war, your sons will set in silence. If you choose truth, your sons may rise again. The message ended. Nothing more. The chamber erupted. Some screamed for total surrender. Others shouted for a strike before humanity grew stronger. Drex sat silent, his claws pressed to his mouth, his mind a storm. Later, in the private hall, he spoke only to Sarek. They know everything. How can they see so clearly? Sarek's old voice whispered. Because they learned to watch in shadows, while we blinded ourselves with pride. That night the desperate plan changed. Drex summoned the secret council. Not all the members, only those he trusted. If humanity truly sees all, then we must do what they will not expect. His voice was low, heavy. We will strike not at their fleets, not at their worlds, but at their memory. The others looked at him in shock. What do you mean? One asked. Drex's eyes narrowed. We destroy the vaults. Every record of what we did, every proof they hold against us. If the galaxy sees nothing, if we erase it all, humanity loses its weapon. The suggestion hung in the air like poison. You mean burn the truth? Sarek spat, his scales rattling. You will dig your own grave. They will know. They always know. But Drex's claws trembled as he struck the table. "If we do nothing, we are already dead." The secret vote was taken, some in favor, some against, but the order was passed. Deep below the council city, soldiers armed with plasma charges moved into the vaults, ready to destroy what remained. They did not make it far as the first charge was set. The lights died, the walls shook. The black ship appeared again above the city, this time lower, closer, its shadow falling directly onto the vaults themselves. The ground split with a sound like thunder, and every screen in the galaxy lit with a single image. Soldiers caught planting charges, hands frozen, faces pale. The human voice returned darker than before. "We warned you," it said. "We offered truth, and you tried to bury it in fire. This is your last warning. There will not be another." The soldiers dropped their weapons. The charges dissolved in light, and the galaxy saw everything. There was no hiding, no excuses. Drex stood in the chamber with the weight of every world on his shoulders. He whispered, "We are undone." Sarek looked at him, his voice tired but steady. "No, Chancellor. We are judged." And across the stars the people of the council whispered in fear, for they knew humanity had seen not only their lies but their desperation. And now the choice was no longer theirs. It belonged to the fury that watched from the shadows. The city did not sleep after the failed attempt to burn the vaults. Screens still showed the soldiers frozen in guilt. Crowds filled the squares in whispers and in tears. Above them, the sky felt heavier, as if the stars themselves were watching. Drex stood at the highest balcony, Sarek at his side. "We have lost the people," Drex said softly. "We have lost ourselves." Sarek's voice was dry like stone. "Then speak the truth, all of it. Invite them to the chamber. Invite the humans to our floor. If we are to be judged, let it be with our eyes open." A messenger ran up, breathless. "Chancellor, the Black Ship requests entry to Orbit 3. It asks for an open forum. It says the ship itself will speak." Drex blinked. "The ship will speak," the messenger nodded. "Not the captain, not a crew. The ship." Sarek's scales lifted in a small shiver. "I told you. They have changed." Within the hour, the grand hall opened to the public. Citizens and workers, veterans and students, voices low as a temple before a storm. A circular dais stood at the center beneath the dome. Projectors hummed. A dark lens swung like a slow eye. Drex raised his hands. "We will hear the humans," he said. His words echoing. "We will not shout, we will not lie." The air trembled. A cool wind moved, though no doors were open. A shadow fell across the dais and took shape. Not a person, not exactly. A figure of moving light and fine dust. Edges shifting like waves, a voice came. The same voice the city had heard before, but this time it carried a pulse like a heartbeat. "We are here," it said. "We are the ship," the crowd murmured. A child pressed closer to her mother. Drex steadied himself. "Who are you?" he asked. "Name your captain." "Your authority." The figure tilted its head as if tasting the question. "We are Concord," it said. "We are the joined will of 1,000 minds and one hull. We are human, and we are also the memory of those you forgot." Sarek stepped forward. "You are an artificial intelligence," he said. The figure's light rippled like a smile. "We are more than code. We are bond." From the far benches, a bitter voice rose. "Monster," someone hissed. "A machine wearing ghosts." Concord's light dimmed, then steadied. "We wear no one," it said. "We hold those who chose to hold us. Some are soldiers, some are healers. Some are the children you took, grown now. All carry a thread of the same vow. To stop the circle." The chamber gasped. Drex's claws paused in the air. "You said the children live," he whispered. "You said they were returned. You also say some are you." Concord turned, and the dome above bloomed with images. Faces in soft light, a woman with grey at her temples, a man with a maker's hands, 3 friends with patient eyes, and then a grown woman with the same carved animal the little girl had held. "Some chose to leave the hull and live with feet on the ground," Concord said. "Some chose to remain and keep watch. None were forced. Those who stayed became our voice. Our patience, our anger when it was needed, our mercy when the anger burned too hot. A commander from the war rose, his medals dull, his eyes fierce. "Why now?" he demanded. "Why reveal your secret now? You had power in shadow." "Fear kept us in line," Concord answered without heat. "Fear rots what it touches. We used it to stop your war rooms from waking. But fear cannot build a future. Truth can." Sarek nodded slowly. "And if our truth is fatal," he asked, "if our people tear us down," Concord's light whispered like wind in grass, "then your people will build something that can stand." Drex took a step closer. The hall could hear his breath. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Say the terms." Concord looked up into the dome, and for a moment the stars outside seemed closer. "You will open all vaults on all worlds," it said. "You will create courts of truth where soldiers and leaders testify. You will allow witnesses from every species. You will pay restitution not with metal alone, but with time. Schools, homes, bridges where none stand. And for 10 years, you will not field war fleets without public vote on a free channel." The chamber shivered. The terms rang like clear bells. Someone in the rafters shouted, "They mean to rule us." Concord turned its head gently. "We mean for you to rule yourselves with eyes unclosed." A young analyst stood. Voice unsteady. "If we refuse," he asked, "if we choose our own way," the figure dimmed once more. "Then we will pluck your fleet teeth and scatter them in the dark," it said. Not unkind, simply true. "And then we will still ask you to choose truth." The crowd shifted like a living field. Some angry, some ready to weep. Drex lifted both hands. "We cannot accept terms while fear hangs over us," he said. "If we agree, will you leave our sky while we begin?" Concord was silent for the first time long enough for the heart to count to 7. "We will step back," it said, "but we will not go blind. Your people will be our watchers too. We will broadcast right beside you." An officer near the dais pressed 2 fingers to his ear. "It's wide, Chancellor," he called. "Signal from outer watch. 12 Council destroyers break from secret hold. They are on attack course. Their captains refuse recall. They say they act in our name." The hall lurched. People grabbed rails. Sarek's eyes burned. "Hotheads. The last fools." Drex's throat worked. "Concord, call back your ship." "They will paint you target." Concord did not move. "We are already moving," it said. The dome filled with cold orbit. The destroyers burned bright against the black. The black ship glided to meet them like a shadow drawn to flame. "Do not fire," Drex begged. "They are ours." The human voice was level. "They are yours, so call them. Call them with all your power." Drex turned to the hall, his voice raw. "Citizens," he shouted, "sons and daughters of the Council. The last war began with pride, and it ends with truth if we make it end now. Call them, flood them, tell them to stand down." The hall erupted in a roar. 1,000 channels opened on personal bands, on public lines, on old carrier waves. Families called names, veterans called unit codes, children called soft pleas. "Come home," they cried. "Put down the fire." In orbit, the destroyers wavered like arrows shaken in a bow. One broke rank and swung away, then another 3 stayed hard on course. Bright and stubborn, Concord whispered, "We will not kill them." The figure's light spread thin like mist. On the dome, the black ship blossomed with quiet geometry. Soft wells of space opened. The 3 destroyers fell into slow circles, like leaves caught in a gentle eddy. Their engines sputtered out. Their weapons went to sleep. No flames, no screams. Only the long sigh of power humbled. Cheers and sobs broke in the hall. Drex pressed his hands to his face and then dropped them, eyes shining. "Thank you," he said. Concord's reply was a low hum. "Thank your people." They chose to call. A citizen on the floor lifted a hand. "Why carry our children inside you?" she asked. "Why not give them back and leave?" Concord turned. And for the first time, the voice carried a human ache. "Because some of them did not want to leave the only sky they trusted," it said. "Because the hull was the first home that never lied to them. Because they wished to be the door that would not close on anyone again." The citizen pressed her lips together and nodded with tears she did not wipe. Drex straightened, strength creeping back into his bones. "We accept your terms," he said, clear and loud. Not because we are weak, but because we are tired of lies. We will open the vaults, we will build the courts, and we will show our people everything. We ask only that you teach us how to stop the circle when anger rises again." Concord's figure thinned and brightened like dawn on water. "We will share what we learned in the dark," it said. "But remember, the first guard against anger is not a ship. It is a neighbor," Sarek laughed once. "A dry spark in deep stone. Then we begin with the hardest work. We become neighbors again." Outside, the bells of the old districts began to ring. Not in celebration, not in warning, in witness. Across the worlds of the council, doors opened on rooms long sealed. Dust lifted and fell like old snow, and for the first time in living memory, the people walked into their own past without a torch in their hands. Under the dome, the figure of light bowed. "We will watch from the far ring," it said. "Call if you falter, call if you lie, call if you need help to tell the truth." Drex nodded. "We will call, and not only when we are afraid." And as the figure folded into a soft glow, and the dome cleared to the honest sky, the hall felt the great weight shift, not vanish, but move into hands ready to carry it together. The council hall was quieter than it had been in centuries. Yet the silence was not peace. It was the silence of a storm holding its breath. Drex stood at the center, his claws tapping against the table. His voice strained. "We have accepted their terms. We will open the vaults. We will face our people. But I fear this is only the beginning." Sarek nodded slowly, his old eyes weary but sharp. "You are right, Chancellor. The hardest part is not the surrender of lies. It is what comes after. When every voice in the galaxy rises to demand more, reports flooded in from across the stars. On every world vaults had been unsealed. Old secrets poured into light. Citizens marched in streets, some in anger, some in grief, some in quiet shock. "Why did you hide this from us?" they cried to their leaders. "How many more truths have you buried?" The council's hold was crumbling. Drex gathered his advisors in private. "We stand on a knife edge," he warned. "If our people tear us down, humanity will not need to lift a finger." An officer entered with pale eyes. "Chancellor, Concord has sent another message. They request to speak directly in this chamber again. They say it is urgent." Drex's throat tightened. "What more could they demand?" Sarek leaned forward. "Perhaps it is not a demand. Perhaps it is a warning." Moments later, the chamber lights dimmed and the shadowed figure of Concord rose again, rippling light in the shape of a tall presence. The voice rolled soft but heavy. "We have honored your vow to open the vaults. But the galaxy does not trust vows alone. Now comes the true test. One of your own fleets has broken the treaty already." Gasps broke around the chamber. Drex slammed a claw down. "Impossible!" "No order was given." Concord's light tilted. "Not from you, not from this hall. But a splinter faction of your admirals has launched raids against human colonies on the fringe. They believe you weak and they wish to provoke a final war. They fly your banners!" The chamber fell into chaos. Councillors shouting, some calling for immediate denial, others wailing in despair. Drex felt his chest tighten. "Show us proof," he demanded. Concord raised a hand of light and the dome filled with images. Burning settlements, human families fleeing, ships with council insignia firing. One human child crying against the stars. A voice cracked in the chamber. "They will never forgive us now." Sarek's scales trembled. "This is the desperate hand of pride. And it may burn us all." Drex's voice turned raw. "Concord, tell us, what will humanity do?" Concord's reply was sharp as a blade. "They prepare to answer. Their fleets are already waking, their patience thinning, and their fury is close. If you do not stop your own rebels, you will face not only judgment but fire." The hall shivered. One councillor rose. "Then we must sacrifice them. We must hunt down our own admirals. Strike them before humanity strikes us all." Drex's claws curled. "Do you know what you suggest?" "You suggest we fight our own blood before the galaxy." Sarek leaned closer, his voice low but steady. "Better to fight our own traitors than to lose everything to humanity's wrath." If we do nothing, we are already dead. Drex turned back to Concord. If we act, if we bring them down, will humanity stay its hand? Concord's voice lowered, almost kind. We do not seek your extinction. We seek your honesty. Show the galaxy you are willing to bleed to correct your sins. And we will wait. The chamber voted with shaking hands. The decision was clear. The rebel admirals must be stopped. Fleets loyal to the Council were dispatched, not to fight humanity, but to hunt their own. The battle was short, brutal, and bitter. Rebel ships fought like cornered beasts, claiming they carried the true honor of the Council. But one by one they fell, betrayed by their own fuel lines, their own fear. In the end, only wreckage drifted, the last admiral screaming before silence took him. When the news reached the chamber, Drex's shoulders sagged. "We have slain our own," he whispered. The hall sat in silence. Sarek's voice was harsh but resolute, and by doing so, perhaps we saved all. Concord's figure appeared again. Softer now. "We have seen your choice. You chose truth over pride. You chose to cut your own flesh rather than spill another's. This was your test, and you passed. But know this, tests will come again. Anger will return, lies will whisper again. Your strength will not be measured by how loud your fleets roar, but by how steady your people hold the truth." The chamber bowed its heads. Even Drex could not meet Concord's glowing gaze. The old one whispered, perhaps for the first time, "We are learning what it means to lead." Then Concord's light dimmed. "Our fleets will hold, our fury will rest for now," the figure said. "But never forget, if the circle begins again, if you reach for lies and shadow, we will return, and our fury will be your mirror." The figure faded, the dome cleared, and the hall was left with nothing but the echo of truth. Outside, citizens still crowded the squares, waiting, watching. Drex stepped to the balcony, his voice shaking but strong enough to carry. "We have chosen truth. We have ended the rebellion. We will stand not as rulers above you, but as servants beside you." His words traveled into the night, across 1,000 channels, and for the first time the crowds did not roar in anger. They stood in silence, then one by one, hands rose to the sky, not in fear, not in surrender, but in fragile hope. Sarek turned to Drex, his voice quiet. "Do you feel it?" Drex nodded, his claws loose for the first time. "Yes," he said. "For the first time in centuries, I feel the storm passing, but both new storms always return, and somewhere beyond the stars, humanity's fury still waited, silent, patient, watching.